Air Force Beechcraft 350 jet crashed near Kaduna International Airport, killing all passengers and crew on board, including the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Ibrahim Atohiru. 10 other officers also lost their lives in the unfortunate incident. About 20 military officers have lost their lives in the last 3 months in 3 crashes involving Nigeria Air Force jets, latest being the Kaduna air crash. What could be going on? Accidents or sabotage? Now, before we even proceed at all, I'm gonna let you get familiar with the men that we lost on Friday. If you're watching on Facebook, if you're watching on YouTube, we'll show you their pictures and their names right now. Nigeria Info 99.3 on Facebook, Nigeria Info 99.3 on YouTube. You will be able to see their names, their faces right now. Lieutenant General Atohiru is the Chief of Army Staff. He was there. We're showing the pictures to you right now on Facebook and on YouTube. Get familiar. Know them. Never forget their names. That is if you're watching. If you're not watching, please go and watch right now while you listen as well. Brigadier General Abdul Quadry, he was on that plane as well. Brigadier General Olayinka was on that plane as well. Brigadier General Kulia was on plane as well. Major La Hayat, Major Hamzat, Sergeant Umar. The crew members were Flight Lieutenant T.O. Ashani, Flight Lieutenant A.A. Olutade, Sergeant Adeshino, and Oyedepo. You can watch right now. Know their faces. Never forget them. Know the names. Gbolahan Olojede is here. Gbolahan, good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning, Sheriff. Good to be here.
It's good to have you here. When you got that message of the plane crash, what came to your mind? I had a lot of things that ran through my mind immediately I heard that news.
Another one. You know, we still have a crash plane that we have not yet resolved what happened to that aircraft. The one that
in March,
the fighter jet.
Right.
Yes. So, and before that, in February, there was a crash involving also
right.
the Air Force. So it just brought back the memories of. I think that was 2006 thereabout, when we had this series of crashes, one crash after the other. Though those ones were passenger aircraft, but in this case we have military operated aircraft. And I cannot just imagine that we have this again. So is it now a 2006 kind of situation? Because what happened in 2006, we have serious maintenance related issues that we had to literally go back and revamp that sector to ensure that we can put a stoppage to all those crashes. So is that what happened? Are there issues of maybe indiscretion? People making a decision to fly when they're not supposed to fly and all of that. But come to think of it, aircraft are built for all weather. So it is only the thorough investigation, because in the investigation you will see the communication between the pilot and the control tower, and all that will lead us in certain direction to know exactly what happened in the last moment of that particular aircraft. In that issue, we will find a lot of information. Imagine, for example, that the aircraft that killed about 163 soldiers way back then. What caused that crash was never resolved till today. And it was recently I was reading that someone said, it was contaminated fuel. It is important that we dig down to all those issues, if only to ensure that we can prevent similar causes bringing down our aircraft.
Because I'm trying to figure out why chief of army staff would want to do a few things. You can change the yeah, you can use that one. Would want to travel with the contingent, high-powered contingent that he was traveling with, and then there will be issue of mechanical or whatever reason that could be because we don't know exactly what
We don't know what happened.
we don't know exactly what I mean. Accidents do happen, yes, but this involved the chief of army staff after 2 previous air crashes in the space of 4 months. Even the military, the Air Force, is saying, look, we know what you are thinking. We are not saying that it's wrong to think what you're thinking, but we are looking into it.
Which is the right thing to say. You have to look into it and obtain the exact reason of why that plane came down. However, I understand what you're saying, but in the real sense of it, if you are entering an aircraft, do you get to the airport and start asking what is the status of this aircraft I'm about to board?
No.
It is most unlikely also that when the general arrive on the tarmac, they will say, "Oh, the aircraft has it gone for his this check? Has it done this? Has it?" It's most likely if it's what is presented to you, it is presumed that it is in the right state of health to make that flight. And the decision to also fly, don't forget, is usually that of the pilot. So whether it is relating to weather predictions and all, if the guy has examined the aircraft and say, I can fly this aircraft and I can fly it in this weather, because there's also a weather information that will be provided for him.
That's right.
That is the judgment that the general are required to rely on to get in that on board of that aircraft.
Indeed. I'll talk to you about the pilot, but if you haven't seen the plane that crashed, go to our Facebook right now. We're showing you the clip of the crashed plane at the moment of people trying to put out the fire. You can go watch right now on YouTube and on Facebook, Nigeria Info 99.3. That's if you have not seen that footage yet. It's there. I can see fire service trying to put out that fire. This was on Friday. I've also heard, Gbolahan, let me come back to you. I've also heard argument as to the experience of the flight lieutenants that were on that plane. People are saying that they were young people that we should have, in a situation such as this, we should have experienced pilots to take people like the chief of army staff on any trip that is going. What's your thoughts on that?
How many hours of flight have they had? That is where the experience is all about, not their age.
Not the age.
Looking
not
young
the age.
is not the issue. But if you've had a relevant number of hours of flight, then you can fly. You can take it. And it's not as if they've given them these 200 passenger aircraft to fly. It's an aircraft carrying 10 people or 9
The
other
Beechcraft, just what you call private jet or something. Yeah.
By the time you take the crew of 4, the rest of the people on that aircraft are just about 6 others. So I am not sure that the issue of experienced pilot or not is the matter here. If the generals themselves are not comfortable with that, at least somebody will tell you who is the pilot that is flying you. Even on commercial aircraft, when you get there, the pilot will announce himself.
Exactly. Exactly.
So they know the person that is flying them. They are comfortable with the flight. That was why they got on board. Saying that they are too young and all the rest, like I said, is about flight hours, not about the age of the pilot.
It's also being said that perhaps it's time to separate the aircraft of the Air Force and give the military, the Nigerian Army, their own private aircraft. Some people are saying, look, it's not prudent to do that. That's why we have Air Force. Let's Nigerian Air Force take care of any flight operations concerning the Army or even government officials. Some are saying, look, if you give the Army the opportunity to take care of their own flight operations and all, it may bring out more efficiency in terms of management. Because look at all the crashes that we've had. It's all about the Nigerian Air Force, especially when it comes to the military.
In terms of management, I still don't get what you're saying. As in their own, because military do have their own bases,
their own fleets. They want their own fleets.
This is military fleet.
It's Air Force.
Air Force. Oh, okay.
They want the Nigerian Army.
Oh, the Nigerian Army to have his own aircraft.
Yes.
I don't think that is a problem, and it is important that we're not we're not trying to solve the wrong problem. The Air Force is not trying to commit suicide or trying to kill. It's the rank of the other guys.
I mean, what would be the motive?
What would be the motive?
Why would
After all, their own men are still going to fly the aircraft.
Exactly.
So I don't think that is a problem. But my until we have a full report, we cannot really say what went wrong. But 3 air crashes in 4 months is something to be worried about. And the first thing, the first thing that goes off in my head is, are we back to 2006 with what happened to the Soliso, Bellevue? All of those things were just dropping from the air, and it was maintenance issues.
If you're just joining us, you're welcome. It's the Morning Crossfire here on Nigeria Info. Quarter of an hour already inside the hour. Let's get back to more angles to this story. Let's fast forward from that Friday. Let's fast forward to Saturday or a few hours after the crash. There were insinuations as to why the president wasn't there at the prayer or even the interment at the military cemetery. People have been speaking. Well, I'm sure you've been.
Of course.
What's your position on this?
Ordinarily, the president, maybe and even the vice president, could have been there or should have been there. If you and I know that they should be there, I can assure you that they also know that they ought to be there. So if they're not there, the first thing that comes to mind is there is a security report. Let me remind you how over the last few months we've been having issues of the military having to replace their allegiance to the government of the day.
That's right.
Yeah. Ordinarily, the commander-in-chief and the men in command should not have to be telling themselves that I'm with you. They are normally supposed to be with him.
Loyalty.
Yes. But we have seen over the last few months how periodically the institutions will have to come out and repledge their allegiance and say, we are with you.
Right.
So it tends to show that there are possibly some suspicion that there are, third column or fifth columnists or whatever you call them in those institutions. Yeah. So that the president is not there, I can almost 100% bet. I mean, he just came back from France. You cannot say he was ill. Yeah, that was the reason. No. And he himself was a soldier.
That's right.
And he is still the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. So for him not to be there, the chances are like 98, 99% that it was security report. Now, even that security report, there are several ways to look at it.
Okay.
In 1995, Yitzhak Rabin was assassinated. That was the then Prime Minister of Israel, or President of Israel, who was negotiating with Yasser Arafat on how to have a two-nation solution to the Middle East crisis. He was killed. And at the funeral, you have very strange faces who showed up in spite of it all. The president of Egypt was there. Jordan was there. Those guys are not friends of Israel, but they went into Israel and attended the funeral of Rabin.
They dared all the risk and went there.
Took all the risk. Yasser Arafat did not go on that day. And the reason he didn't go, the same thing we're talking about, security report. But a couple of days later, against all advices, including advices from Israel for him not to come, he showed up in Israel and visited Leah Rabin, the widow of the assassinated president of Israel. And when he was interviewed, he made a particular statement. He said, it is a duty. And that is the part that people who are faulting the fact that the president was not there are trying to say that, look, maybe there is a security report. There are certain times when you say there's a security report and the guy said, tell the security architecture that I am going. Which is essentially is telling them, do whatever you need to do to secure me. I am going to that place. As an approach to this matter.
Okay.
But obviously that wasn't the approach that the president took. It was a matter of, most likely, there's a security report and he decided not to show his face there. As simple as that. We missed a big opportunity. A very huge opportunity. If the president had been there, it did not even need to say a word. It's there, sober. We have videos. I'm just painting pictures now of him standing up, holding those grieving, the families, holding someone by the shoulders, even if he's not saying any word. And it's just comfort looking at the face. He says a whole lot. We missed all of that. And those things are things that inspire us very deeply. And he also have been able, there are people who believe, he's a cocooned person. He's a cocooned person. He doesn't show enough empathy. That would have been an occasion to let them know that I am human and I show empathy and I have empathy and communicate it in the actions that I would take at that, even without saying a word. So obviously, we missed that opportunity, or he missed that opportunity. Well, maybe he can still visit and make that public. People will see it as a
visit. It's called the widow already, Mrs. Fati.
A call is fine. A visit is better.
Okay.
I just wanted an example of a visit.
Yes.
Israel and Palestine are arch enemies.
That's right.
So if Yasser Arafat could get off from Palestine, in his first visit, after he came to Gaza, that was his first visit to Israel. And the reason the man that died was killed has to do with the peace negotiation with him. So he was an endangered species on that trip. But he went there and he paid a homage to the widow of that woman. And he called it a duty. So the call is good.
So sometimes you're saying that sometimes you have to put duty first before every other thing.
Yes.
Like a responsibility.
It's like a responsibility. So you show up. The call is fine for now. But show up there. Sit down with them in their wherever they are sitting. And let them feel that empathy. Whatever security that you need to provide to ensure you can carry out that.
Right.
Let it be made available. You are still the commander-in-chief.
Indeed. We're going to quickly go back to all the gallant, fine soldiers that we lost on Friday. The reason being, I want everyone to get familiar with their names. If you like, tweet their names. Show appreciation to them. They are fine police officers, military officers. We're showing you their names and their pictures right now on Facebook and on YouTube if you're watching. Go get familiar, give them a mention, reach out to their loved ones on Twitter if you know any of them with their mention and all of that. We have to learn to appreciate our fallen heroes. We